what is the life I want to live when I'm through the tunnel of recovery? If we came down with a blueprint and he got himself off course.
Correct. And they can't interfere
Yes.
unless you ask for help.
God is very polite.
That ability to be humble, to give yourself permission to make mistakes,
Yes.
to give yourself permission to explore and just see what happens with no attachment to outcome,
Correct.
is a superpower.
You have a spirit. And the spirit is the part of you that came from unconditional love and will go back into unconditional love. Your soul is your purpose. Why did your spirit come down here? And then that voice came in and it said, you are.
I'd like to welcome back to the show returning champion, Margot McKinnon.
Well, thank you. What an honor, Alex. I'm delighted. Can't believe it.
Thank you so much for coming down to Next Level Soul Studios. I really appreciate you making the trip down here. I've been excited to have you back on the show.
Well, I'm really excited too, and I owe you a big thank you, Alex.
Oh, thank you so much.
Your viewers are incredible. And so many have written to me, and I just want to give a big shout out to them because you have an incredible audience that's growing every day.
Yeah.
And that audience is tuning in to me now, and I'm really, really grateful for you and everything you've done.
Well, thank you so much. That's very humbling. I am just a humble podcaster, spreading the word. That's all I try to do. But I appreciate that very much. Our last conversation, we really focused a lot on your near-death experience, which is kind of the catalyst to this. For people who didn't see that first episode, can you kind of just glance over really quickly what that near-death experience, what it was, how it happened, what it was, and what you brought back? A Reader's Digest version, because if they want to go deep dive, they can watch the other episode.
Okay. It happened when I was about 37 years old, 38 years old. I was actually doing a ceremony, and I can't really get into, we're not to talk really about the actual ceremony, but my experience I can talk about. And it was a fasting ceremony, no food or water, no chemicals, there were no drugs or anything involved. It was a pure fasting ceremony. And around the third day, we were in ceremony, and then my body just dropped to the ground. And my spirit came out into the most extraordinary, beautiful, unconditional love I've ever experienced in my life. And my mom came down, and my mom had one of those smiles that was like this big, bright, white smile like this. And I could see her smile coming down. She said, you can't come up any farther than this. You have 3 children. You have to go back down. My spirit, and I am giving you the short version. Really short version. Some people might call this an out-of-body experience. It's not technically a near death. But the other thing you have to realize about me is that I've had this my whole life.
When you mean say had what?
I have had not feeling human, not feeling like a human. My whole life.
Disconnected from this kind of reality, if you will?
More like I knew I had that I was here having a human experience. I've known that since I was a little kid. And I used to, I have to escape from the world and go and have my own quiet time where I can get back into the spirit dimension and just have a talk and just say, it's so hard to live here. I'm finding it really hard today. How long do I have to stay? How long do I have to do this?
Right.
Breathe, eat, move. I knew every day I had to put a bodysuit on and get out into the world. I always had that sensation. Plus, I have this voice that guides me, and it tells me what I'm supposed to do. And I have other voices. They're more high-pitched, but I have this low one.
We'll talk about your voices.
We'll talk
about your voices in a minute.
So let's go back. So in context, this was another spiritual experience for me, for my spirit to come out, see my mom. And the most profound for me, that my takeaway was this extraordinary unconditional love. It took my breath away. Like literally, it just went, it went like this. And it infused into my whole body like that. And then when my mom said I had to come back down, I got inside my body. And then I came to, and it was like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
And looking around like, who am I? Like, what is this? Where am I? And then that voice came in and it said, you are Margot McKinnon, teacher. It's the teacher that anchors me because I heard that voice when I was 4 years old. You are to be a teacher. And I get some of your viewers writing to me saying, I have that voice and it sounds just like that. So in this moment, I came back down. Thought, wow, there is unconditional love out there. Why do human beings make this world a difficult, challenging place to live?
Ego. I think ego
Can
is.
you explain that? What do you mean?
I think ego is. I think that when we're down here, we're just trying to figure things out. Now, there are people around us who are a little bit more down the road than others, meaning that we've kind of seen it. So yourself, you came in with the knowledge, an understanding, a knowing of what this is. Even at a rudimentary level, there was just an understanding that you had since you were 4. I've spoken to many people who've had that. I discovered that later in life. I wasn't blessed with anything like that when I was younger. Wasn't my journey. My journey was to find out while I was here, as opposed to kind of being gifted that early on. It's kind of like people who are gifted with psychic abilities or abilities to a very in-tuned intuition, things like that. But there are many of us who are a bit more down the road, not better or worse, just a bit more down the road than others, while the others are really entrenched in this simulation, in this game, I like to call it, because they're all about the players, they're all about the drama, they're all about that because that is all drawn by ego. The ego wants that. It wants to be known. It wants to be felt. It wants to be seen constantly. And it wants interaction. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad interaction. As long as there's a spotlight on it, it's all it really cares about. And that runs from the individual all the way to nations around the world and in just large swaths of humanity, even religious humanity. We can go down that road later if you like. But I think that's why we make it so difficult for us. And I think as a collective, we're tired of it. I think we are now awakening, and we can see it. And I talk about it on the show and ad nauseum, that even in the time you and I have been on the planet, from when we were teenagers or young or kids to where we are now, the acceptance, the curiosity, the understanding of the ideas that we talk about are much more accepted. These conversations are much more accepted in a public forum, not in a hotel ballroom somewhere in Kansas, where a bunch of other weirdo woo-woo people get together and chant and talk, where now a lot of this is mainstream. So you can see a tangible shift in humanity right now, where we are accepting of these ideas. We're looking for these ideas. We want to get away from the old systems that aren't serving us anymore and go and awaken into this new world. That's my short answer to this question.
Yes, and that's what I'm working on right now too. And I'm thinking about, at the time, I was a high school English teacher. And when I came back with this feeling of unconditional love, because as a child, I felt like a stranger here on earth. And I felt almost like an alien, which gave me incredible observation tools.
Well, you kind of separate yourself from the game. Kind of like you're looking at the play being played. You understand that there's actors, that there's a director, there's writers, there's cameras and lights and stuff. You're in on the game, while the people that you're watching, they believe they're the characters that they're playing.
Oh, yes. Well, I think what really helped me was understanding that there's some sort of rules or systems in this game, which I didn't know, because I don't really feel of this world. And so I flew into Austin to be on your show. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, how am I going to get from my hotel over to Alex's studio? Well, that is a layer of mind, what I call mind dominantness rules to get over there. And I thought, oh no, that's going to absorb all my energy. in dealing with the traffic that I won't be present enough for Alex's actual interview. And I want your viewers to know Alex picked me up at my hotel and
It is
drove
not a
me
service.
over here.
It is not a service I do for every guest. Let's clarify that.
I had to make myself real pitiful.
I generally don't do that for everybody, but we had a little extra time today, so we can make
I was
it work.
real pitiful. That's all I can say. How am I going to, as little Margot McKinnon, trying to navigate my way over when I don't feel like I'm part of this world? And it was a lot of traffic, everybody. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is Alex is such a lovely person.
We are in a time of great change, and humanity is awakening more and more every day. Mankind needs insights on what is happening to all of us. That is why I'm inviting you to Wisdom from Beyond, a 6-day virtual summit designed to awaken your soul. Experience over 9 hours of soul-expanding channeling sessions led by 6 of the world's most esteemed channelers. Connect with the divine, receive sacred insights, and transform your journey by asking questions directly to the channelers themselves. This is more than just a summit. It is your gateway to understanding the profound shifts happening within and around all of us. Plus, when you sign up, you receive exclusive bonus content to deepen your spiritual exploration. Join us and step into the extraordinary.
But when I came back down and I had that feeling finally of what unconditional love means, and it's this real powerful, like it just fills you up. And I thought, I'm going to take that, I'm going to try and figure out how to infuse unconditional love into everything I do. And as I said, I was a high school teacher. I thought, I'm going to make this classroom a place where the students here will feel that unconditional love. Because they're trying their life, like as teenagers, they're making mistakes. Okay, how can we look at that and say, let's try it again in kindness and in love, and create that environment for the children to flourish. And that's what I think unconditional love is. I'm going to create the environment for you to flourish.
But that's but that's what you were saying, that there's rules down here. Every game has rules. If without rules in the game, it's not a game anymore. So if you're playing a video game and all of a sudden you can do anything, anytime you want, well, there's no real challenge in that. And there's no real like you have to have parameters. So there are rules in this simulation. There are rules in this game where you must follow. We have to breathe. We have to eat. We have to, there's gravity. There's certain rules in place. Now, with that said, when there are beings who walk the earth, these gentlemen and ladies behind me, who ascend to a certain level of consciousness where they start getting an understanding and a knowing at such a deep level of who they really are, evolving to a level where then they can play with those rules. That's where the Santi, I think they're called Santis, for yogis, where as they elevate, they achieve powers, levitation, biolocation, manifestation. All of the Jesus miracles were all very yogic in nature, because they were able to evolve past it. And I always like using the movie The Matrix as a reference point. Neo starts to understand the code and start to manipulate the code. And that's where we all are hoping to get one day. All these masters were able to do that. So they started to understand the game and the code behind the game, if you will, so well that they can now start manipulating it, not out of ego, though those are ego traps, by the way, because you can get caught up in like, oh, I can levitate. Look how cool I am. Done. It's over. You've lost because you've fallen into that trap. As a something that happens when you evolve to a certain level. These are these actions that happen, but then you could start manipulating it. So I always find those stories and those beings fascinating, because I want to levitate. I don't know about you, but not from an egotistical standpoint. Just as like, how cool would that be? Or healing, or understanding the energy, or understanding things like things like that.
Well, I'll give you a real practical example.
Tell me.
I am the condo president of my condo building.
Someone has to do it, so I appreciate it.
Yes. And when about 2 weeks ago, we had a big backfire in our boiler system, and it blew the cover right off. So we had to get experts in to figure out what happened. So I'm going to, like as the president, I'll say, okay, I know the rules of the game. You get in the experts. Who's a boiler engineer? Who are our plumbers? How do we find out what actually happened here? That's the rule. So once I have that in place, then I go up to the other level and start working with the rules of that game. And I said, okay, now we have to make it so that the problem is not as big as we thought. So we, human beings tend to go to the worst case scenario and into hysteria. The boiler blew up, the boiler blew up. Okay, let's scale that back. Let's get experts to do it. And it was funny too, because we were switching the boiler on right as we're speaking right now. And while I was in your green room, I had to go into meditation. I said, I know you're switching the boiler on right now. Do a soft opening, have everything working perfectly so that they go, oh, look at this. There was no problem. There's no problem anymore. Everything's working beautifully. So it's put all the people in place. Our engineer is there right now turning it on. So you can do that. Like,
you're playing both sides of the coin.
Yes, I'm saying, okay, let's, and I want to get into the 5 dimensions that I talk about because I always refer to it. So we have 5 dimensions of ourselves. So the mind dominant, which I call the logical rational side of ourselves. Let's get the logical rational side taken care of. I can't go up to the universe. Can you fix our boiler? I say, let's call in the experts to look at our boiler, that this is what they do all day, every day. But now let's go to the next level. And what's so fun about my team that I work with is they understand that this is what I do. This is the piece I bring to the board. And I say to them, okay, we have our AGM on Thursday. So I have to hightail it back to Calgary so I can be ready for that. And I say, don't text, phone me or anything an hour before our AGM. I'm in meditation to make sure that everything goes beautifully, smoothly. People get the messages they need.
Margo, I have to stop you for a second. Because when you're saying these things, I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
I completely get it at the level that you're bringing it out.
Okay.
But there's people listening right now like, what is this lady saying? This sounds crazy.
Does it?
What is this? Like, what do you mean that everything's going to go right? I can barely meditate myself. I can't help with a boiler. Like, can you break this down to a place where people can truly understand how they can apply this idea in their life? Because from a layman's point of view, it's crazy talk, and we haven't even talked about your voices yet.
Oh yeah,
we have to go back into that world.
That's the normal part, right, Alex. Exactly. I don't know what you.
But I want people to understand from a very practical point where you're coming from, because you are an Oxford educated doctor. And I make sure to say that out loud, not to impress upon people how cool you are because you went to Oxford, but to say, this is not a woo-woo lady who's at a carnival giving readings. Not that there's anything wrong with that. No, but you are a very practical, grounded human being, bringing in the mystical, bringing in the spiritual into your life. And I would just love you to kind of bring it down to a place where a layman, someone who's just walking into this conversation, can start to grab onto a couple of these ideas and maybe apply it in their life.
Well, that's a really hard one because you have such a range of viewers, right? You have some people who are really, they've worked very, very hard, many decades on themselves. And there are some people who are just happening upon you, which is really fantastic. It's hard when you've been like this your whole life. Because I've been like this, I don't know any different. I don't know what it's like not to have this. What I try and do is, with my team, say on my condo board, they trust me now because it works out if they let me have my meditation time. Things work out better. But let's just think about this. Okay, you want me to take that boiler example?
So that's a pretty complex example. Is there something simple? So like, let's say a parking spot.
Well, how about we say let's get back to these rules. I'm not a dreamer. Do you dream at night?
Yes, but not as much as I used to. Now, because I meditate so much, a lot of stuff comes in through meditation. So,
Is that what you think it is? Because I go to sleep like this, and I wake up in the morning as if it were blank space.
Yeah, I haven't recently been dreaming a lot, but what I do is when dreams do come through, I talk to it's a joke. I love, ribbing my spirit guides and my team, my spiritual team, because when dreams come in, I believe that they're messages to try to let you know about something.
Yes,
that's what I always believe, and it makes sense to me. As I've had certain dreams at certain times in my life, they're either warnings or letting you know something's coming, or you really need to work on this kind of thing. And a lot of times I'll have the dream, and like most people, I'll forget about it. Like I'm trying, like, I gotta remember, and it'll just, like, when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, damn it, where was it? You know? So, and I can't wake up in the middle of the night and record it into a phone because I have my wife next to me. So it's difficult to do. So what I tell them is, like, listen, you got to raise the production value on these things.
Good idea.
I go, look, if you want me to remember, for me, because of my background in film, I need to have either an actor or someone like that makes me, or a director, someone I can recognize, and it'll grab my attention. It'll make me remember much easier. So, I've had recent dreams where there's a certain actor that shows up in a certain role, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I remember, like, I had a dream a couple days ago, which was a very powerful dream, and a certain actor came in, played this part perfectly, and I'm like, I remembered every aspect of it. I could write it down for you right now because of the production value involved. If it's just kind of like a little couple people here or there, like, I can't remember that. So for me, I always tell them, up the production value. You need some explosions in there. Give me some. I need better sets. I need better this. I need masses of people. I need this to be Cecil B. DeMille.
Yeah,
the kind of big productions. Chris Nolan, huge productions for me to kind of remember. If you want to get this information to me, so
yes, but that's part of the rules. Like when we're thinking about the spiritual rules and the earth realm rules.
Correct.
So if anybody out there, try it, right, as a ask for it. So I'm going to give you two examples. One was where I woke up and I think my alarm clock went off. And I, back in the day before I had my cell phone waking me up, but, and I woke up and my spirit wasn't back in my body yet. And I was going, okay, like I'm using English words, but it wasn't English. I thought, what is that sound? Oh, what is that? And then the voice came in and it said, that sound means you get up. Oh, okay. I get up. What does that mean, get up? You get up, you get ready, make your coffee. Coffee, what is coffee? Have a shower. What is having a shower? I don't even know what you're talking about. And I was looking at my hands like this, kind of like when I came out of what I describe as a near-death experience. I didn't know, like, oh, who am I? And I was looking around and then I thought, but why do I do this thing called getting up? And because you are a teacher. Oh, right. And that always brings my spirit back in.
It grounds you.
Grounds me. Yeah. You are Margot McKinnon. You are a teacher. Oh, yeah, I get it now. I get it. And it was so fun. It was comical by the time I said, I get it now. This is my hand. Okay, yeah, I turned that off. Yes, that's a radio. That's a clock radio. That's what human beings use. That's what they use, isn't it? About how to get themselves up, this getting up thing that they have to do. So it was really like looking objectively at human beings. That's what they do. They use that thing and that tells them they get up. Then they have this whole routine. They go and have a shower, they get ready. Okay, yeah. And then they go to this place called a job. Oh yeah, and mine is to be a teacher. And I thought, and I was going, wow, I get how there are rules down here. Mm-hmm. This is how it goes, right? And I thought, if only people knew what the spiritual rules were. There are those ones, like a clock radio, that would wake me up.
Oh, there are rules up there too.
And then there are rules over there too. So if we combine that for my boiler situation, okay, the earth rules are you call an engineer.
Right.
You call an engineer and you have them look at it and do a report. You get your plumber who blew it up in the first place there on the scene. What happened? What did you do?
Well, it's interesting because on the other side, to my understanding, there are specialists as well. So there are certain masters, ascended masters, let's say, use them as examples, who have certain set of skills that they acquired. So there, if you want to get into, if you want to do mass media, there's a certain master that will show up to help you. If there's one, if you want to be a writer, if you want to do this or you want to do that, there are certain masters who just in their lifetimes, that's kind of what they did. So they have a much more broader experience. Even in the archangels hierarchy, there are certain angels that have, they're protectors. They're here to help you. They're healers. There's certain things. So there are rules and there are specialists you call in on the other side. I mean, yeah, there's the generalist as well, but there are people, there are those kind of souls and spirits that come in. You mentioned your near-death experience, and I wanted to clarify something, because so many people think, oh, you have to die to have a near-death experience. From my understanding, I just had a conversation with the president of IONS the other day, and she was like, no, from our research, you don't have to die. That's one way to get a near-death experience, but it could be what you had. It could be a spiritual awakening. It could be a bunch of different things, but the end, what happens is what clarifies that as a near-death experience. What you had, overwhelming love, someone came over, those are all telltale signs of a near-death experience, as opposed to an astral projection or an out-of-body experience. It's completely different. Like when you go into an out-of-body experience, to my understanding, you don't feel unconditional love. You don't see it's a different experience. That make sense?
I would agree, because I teach people. I think, first of all, when you say, what gift are we bringing down here? Clearly the voice, I'm a teacher. So what am I a teacher of? I'm a teacher that helps people live down here. When you feel like you don't belong, when you feel like when you're so, what I describe as spirit dominant. So when my spirit came out and went into the most beautiful unconditional love, and then it came back down into my body, and now it's looking out my eyes saying, this world, why can't we have unconditional love down here all the time? So my spirit looks out my eyes and sees a world that seems unnecessarily harsh and abrasive. What can I do? What part can I play in creating more unconditional love, a place where people can flourish? And as a child, I had that sense of wanting to go home. So when I was saying, how long do I have to stay here? I was also saying, but I just want to go home now. And I'm so glad I didn't. And so anybody who has that feeling, that's where I come in.
Well, you're here for a
Stay
reason.
here.
Yeah, you're here
I'm
for
a
a reason.
teacher to help you stay here. And because I understand what that feeling is. That's why I've been given that. I understand exactly what it feels like. And guess what? I don't feel that anymore.
No, we're here to do a job.
Yes.
We're here to experience. We're here to learn. We're here to grow. If you're here for a reason.
Absolutely.
And it might not be pleasurable all the time.
Yes, but I think about that too, Alex. Like, if it's not so pleasurable, I used to have students who were really born into rough circumstances.
Of course.
And, that's where I feel my best work. We're working with kids that really, and I would say unfairly, were put in a really rough circumstance. Like, makes me cry a little bit, actually, because I really felt for them.
Sure.
So how can I teach them to have faith in the world
When the world is being... Yeah.
when their own parents,
Yeah.
the very people that were supposed to protect them and let them flourish, create that environment for flourishing, betrayed them from the get-go? So my role as their teacher And I taught English literature, so I could use literature and film. Well, you know all about that. The great stories are about the human experience.
The hero's journey.
Yes. And so I would sit them down and say, okay, this was a very unfair thing that happened to you. My job is to help you create the life that your spirit came here to live. You were not meant to live in that amount of distress and chaos and abuse. Okay, but my job is to bolster you, to create that buffer for you, and teach you over the next 3 years, grade 10, grade 11, grade 12, teach you over the next 3 years how to grow into that person that you were always meant to be.
Yeah, it's those negative experiences are what is the fire that hardens you, is the fire that molds you into who you become. I've gone through a lot of difficult things in my life, and I wouldn't take them out.
Well, no, if you look back and you know, them. Well, and what I'm teaching, because I run meetup groups and everything, and we were talking, I had a meetup group out of my hotel room last night, but I was saying to them, you know, when you're in a real challenging situation, like everything's coming at you and it's starting to like make you like chaotic yourself and you don't know what to do. Just take your spirit and just go and talk to the universe in that white light and just say, you know, I'm open to the lessons that you're teaching me right now. I know this hard time. Keep my eyes open and get back into that game that you're talking about. There are some rules going on here. There's some lesson I'm supposed to get out. Watch everything. So don't surrender, like fall under it. Just take it as that. And as soon as you think you have your lesson, you say, okay, I get it now. You can lift the pressure off now. And that's a spiritual rule. So if you look at what you were asking me, what is a way that we can tell our audience about how the spirit, and there's so much, right? We can only do so much in an hour and a half. With my boiler situation, okay, it was blowing up. Winter's coming. We already have snow in the ground where I come from, right? We need heat.
Amazing.
We need heat. Okay, we've got to solve this, but I'm not going to go into that dark, incapacitated state. I'm going to say, okay, let's do this. We've got our lessons in place. Okay, now let's lift the energy of hardship off of this and let's make it be easy. I'm ready for easy now.
Very true. Very true. Now, one thing I've found in my research for you is you had also, we didn't talk about this, like pre-birth experiences or pre-birth memories. Is that true?
That was my son.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, because it was quite exceptional. And he's a big teacher for me now, too. When he was about 3 years old, I was putting him to bed in his little flannel pajamas, you know, and ready to read him a story and everything. And he said, you know, Mom, before I was born, I was talking to God.
Oh, well, there's nice.
And I said, oh, really? Well, what does God look like? God doesn't look like anything. Is God a man or a woman? I'm saying he, and he's talking like this, he's 3. I'm saying he, but it's not really a man or a woman. It's like pure white. It's pure white you're looking at. And he said, and God told me I had to come down and be a human. And I said, well, what did you say? And he said, I told God I didn't want to come. I said, why not? Because it's not very nice down here, Mom. And that's our theme. It's not very nice. What can we each do to make it better, right? It's not very nice down here, Mom. I didn't want to come down here. It's so nice over there, Mom. And I said, well, what did God say when you said you didn't want to come? Well, he said I had to. And so I said, can you show me my mom? And he took a photograph of you, like out of a photo book. And he showed me a picture of you. And I said, oh, she looks mean. And I'm keeping my composure, Alex. She looks mean. And I don't want to come down. But God said I had to come. And when God tells you to do something, you do it. And I got inside your body. And then when I was born, I looked at your face and said, oh, she's beautiful. And I'm glad you're my mom. But he was born dead, like black and blue, cord around the neck.
Oh, wow.
Cord around the neck, feet first. Oh, wow. And so they took him, and then they were doing CPR and bringing him back. I think that conversation happened. I think he had a choice.
Yeah.
Do I want to come or do I want to go stay over there?
Yeah.
But what I also, so two things. One is, let's create more unconditional love down here. This God, creator, universe, oneness, whatever word we want to use for that force. Why can't we just put down the ego? Put down, there's a news show in Canada called Power and Politics. And I thought, how would life be different if we said people and politics instead of power and politics?
How about
Isn't
people in
politics?
love? How about people in love?
Yes.
That would be a better show. People and love.
People and love. And how can we create the conditions for people to flourish instead of my own ego and power tripping and all of this? So there was that, so my son, and we're very, very close. And I told this story as well, which a lot of your audience resonates, but so you might hear it again here. But when he was about 8, he fell in love with Buddha. Mm-hmm. And he was just sitting in Buddha poses and really meditating with Buddha. I hadn't taught him about Buddha. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I had him in a museum. There was a Buddha sculpture there, and he was sitting in the pose in front of the Buddha. And my other kids, do you want me to get Alex? Like he's also named Alex. Do you want me to get Alex? And I said, oh, just leave him there, and so he can have his experience, and then he can catch up, and we'll just stay where he can see us. And then when he was finished, I said, so how was your experience with the Buddha? And he said, well, Mom, to understand something, you must become that thing.
How old?
8. So he was, first of all, having his conversation with God. He also realizes, I have been put here. God sent me here. We were all sent here. Right?
And he was sent through you for a reason.
Yes.
Because you could help him.
And we work as a team, the two of us. Like we're really, really close. And possibly my face did look mean because I thought my baby was dead. So I could have been just a little upset, right?
As one would does.
Yeah, I thought my baby had died. So anyway, but here's the other part of that story I find very, very interesting, is that God showed him a picture, like a photograph of me. And another reader of mine said, interesting, my son just told me the same story. God showed me a photograph of me. Now I'm beginning to think, well, I'm not beginning, I'm way down the road from thinking about this, how powerful our photographs are.
Oh.
And how we really do capture the essence. So I do now like digital vision board work with people, and where you use your own photographs. And in the center of your digital vision board, you find the picture of when you were the happiest, healthiest version of yourself. So say you're going through an illness right now. And you say, okay, I'm trying to get through this illness. I'm going to go to the mind dimension, the rules down here. I'll see my doctor. I will get whatever they're telling me to do. Then go and find a photograph of you and put that when you were the happiest, healthiest version of yourself. Your spirit, that one that came down here to, out of unconditional love, and we'll go back there. We'll see that photograph and try and bring you back in alignment with that. And I'll give you another example. I had one of my clients struggling with her son who was in his 30s, and he was had gotten addicted to Oxycontin for 10 years, lived in the basement. She was in medical services herself, but she had spent, I don't know, is it 100,000? Is that too little? Trying to get him off of this over 10 years. Very extraordinarily loving mother, didn't know what to do at the end of her rope. And I said to her, and whether this will work 100% of the time, but hey, why not try it? I said to her, go find a picture of him when he was the happiest, healthiest version of himself and still excited about his life. So she found this picture of him when he was a young little kid in his Halloween costume of Superman jumping off the couch, and he was trying to jump off so his little cape could be flying, right? And she snapped a picture of him as he was full smiling, and she said, I need you to be that Superman again, to pull yourself out. Wow. So she put that, unbeknownst to him, she put that picture out and in her, near where she could see it. 2 days later, he came out of the basement, and by then his hair's down to here. He's never worked in 10 years. He's in his early 30s. And legitimately, he had something happen to him where they put him on OxyContin and he just couldn't get off, which is a very, very sad thing.
And
right?
common. Yeah.
Very, very common. So anyway, he came up and he said, I'm ready now. And that's the other thing. I'm ready now. I want to get off this OxyContin. I need you to just help me this. And I promise I will do my piece. So when you say, what are the rules? It keeps coming back to that and everything that we talk about, the rules. Okay, what do I need to get off Oxy? He said, I want to go see my doctor and say, how do I get off this safely? What is the best way? Then I have to be committed to my own sobriety. And I know this is going to be hard. Just by putting the picture out isn't going to make the pain go away of trying to get off this. Right. It's going to be a very grueling few months of trying to, first, the body has to adjust and then your mind has to adjust. So anyway, she phoned me and she said, listen, I just put that picture up and he wants to get off of it. That's the first time in 10 years. Like he's never said that. All I did was put this. Yeah. So anyway, and he did the grueling work. He did the body work, the mind work, which is of this world. But he also did the spiritual work. What is the life I want to live when I'm through the tunnel of recovery? Beautiful. And guess what he's doing? He, within a year, he registered to do his master's degree in Cyprus. He's finished this only happened, I think we're probably at the 3-year mark that she put that picture out. He recovered, he's got his master's degree, and now he's working on his PhD. Oh. He's found the love of his life. He's moved to Mexico. He's from Calgary, moved to Mexico to be with the love of his life. And he's like thriving. He's back on course.
Yep.
He got off track.
It happens.
Yes, it happens to us. So,
all of us. Yeah.
And so the spiritual, we put this picture here, but you know what I'm beginning to wonder, Alex, and maybe you can fill me in. You've talked to so many people, and I talk to myself and the voice, right? But these pictures, I'm wondering if they are photographs of our blueprint of when we came down here. If we came down with a blueprint, and he got himself off course. And we can say, oh, the addictions was all part of his journey. Yes, it was. But when he got himself back on course, onto the blueprint, onto the life his spirit always wanted to live, everything was so much easier.
Well, I think that the idea of the blueprint in that picture, which, by the way, is such a powerful idea. It's an extremely powerful idea. I think it's something that anyone could do for free, essentially.
It's non-invasive. Like, what harm is it going to do?
No harm at all.
Yes.
But being on the I call it the soul highway, if you will.
Yes.
When we're on the other side, we do hit these mile markers. We put these mile markers down. Like, we're gonna have this mom. We're gonna have this parent. This life. This person we're gonna meet. We're gonna have to deal with that. So there's these large mile markers that we are gonna hit. It's not a conversation of if, it's when, truly. How we get there and how we deal with them is completely up to us. So from what you're telling me, it sounds to me that one of his mile markers is like, you're going to have to deal with addiction in this lifetime. Now, how he dealt with it is where he took the off-ramp. Now, that off-ramp could be really short. get off, get back on.
I like that.
But he went and kept going.
Yes.
And he started going off road, and it got really rough, and the tires blew out,
Yes.
and he couldn't, and the car is off the road, and it's overheated, and he's sitting on. He's like, he can't get back. He truly was lost.
Yes.
He was lost. It was his mom who started to shine a light to come back to try to help. But the thing is, you can't send a tow truck out there and pull him back on the road. It doesn't work that way.
Yes.
Well, as parents, we want to send the tow truck.
Yes. Scoop them up.
We want to bring
Fix
them back. Come here, like a mama bird. You want to take them in, like it's going to be okay, because that's our job as parents.
Yes.
But that is not what they asked for. Whether
Yes.
we can't see it or not, they need to go through that. And as parents, we could just be there to support them, to help them, to try to throw some guidance along the way, and really get in their face sometimes. Like, you got to get up. You got to start walking back. I know it's a long road. I'll throw some lights on there so it won't be as bad, but you've got to do the work.
Yes.
And that image that she brought up, and this is what my voices are telling me.
Oh, yes.
Was a light for him, not only an unconditional light of love, but an unconscious love light for him. Because when he was in the darkness, he started to see the light. He didn't even know where the light was coming from,
Yes.
but he knew that this was it. And that light and and the energy she was putting onto that picture is what guided him back. It took 2 days for him. She didn't pull him out. He came out
Yes.
and says, I need help.
Yes.
I'm ready now.
That is the key. I am ready now.
ready.
I am ready now. And so wherever you are in your life, or you just say, I'm ready now. I'm ready now. And for me, ready now is I'm ready now in the spirit dimension. You know, I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to explore that. And even, meeting you today, I'm ready now to have a really great conversation with Alex.
Yeah.
It's
that concept of being ready, that idea of speaking out loud to the universe, for lack
Yes.
of a better word. We haven't been trained to do that as a general statement. Maybe you have for sure, but most people haven't. Where if you need something, ask.
Ask.
The other side is there to help you along this journey. This is not an easy assignment. So if you ask for help, I have found that help shows up. But it's how you ask for it. One of the big moments of my life is I almost, after a horrific experience, almost making a $20 million movie for the mob.
Oh.
It's a book. It's a whole thing. I almost went bankrupt after that. And I was literally a couple days away from signing the bankruptcy papers. I was 27. I had made a lot of mistakes along the way, and the addition of this other giant crap of, bunch of crap that fell on top of me. It was too much for me to bear at that time. I couldn't get work, couldn't do anything. And I was about a day or two from signing the papers. And when I yelled out to God,
Yes.
and I said, God, I want to pay my debts, but I need help. And if you don't send me something, I'm going to sign these papers and I'm going to protect myself because it's the only option I have left. But if you send me a job, I will work my ass off. It's a similar conversation as him. I'm ready.
Yes.
I got to a place where I got out of the muck, out of the story, the drama. I was able to pop my head up just for a second at the lowest. It was literally one of the lowest points of my life. My girlfriend broke up with me. I was close to losing my house. There was a lot going on. And the next day, my very first boss calls me up and goes, hey, they are looking for an editor up north. I already gave him, I didn't call him. I didn't let him know. He just knew. And I went up, I got the job. Then a week or two later, I got another job. So I had 2 jobs. And within 18 months, I was out of debt. I worked my way back out of it.
That's such a beautiful story. And a lot of your viewers ask me, I get emails every day and I love them. And every morning I try and answer everybody. So they ask me, well, what do you think God is? Like, And how does God show up? And I'm back to using that word God for some reason. I go universe, creator,
Source. Sure.
source.
Yeah.
And I say God is your best friend, your mentor, loves you absolutely 100%. And you can ask God to help you whenever you want. That's one of the spiritual rules. And when we were talking about that, right? So God doesn't just show up. It's like nobody, well, I guess they can. I can't say nobody, but people don't typically just enter into your house unless they get an invitation.
Correct. And they can't interfere
Yes.
unless you ask for help.
God is very polite, and very respectful of your choices.
Free will.
God is an exceptional parent.
Arguably the ultimate parent.
I'm saying an exceptional one because, God will watch you go through and try and support you and everything as you're going through things. If you want it to sign that big deal and watch you, like you can't go and rescue. We talked about this just a few minutes ago. You can't go and pull your child out of every dangerous thing. Sometimes they just have to burn themselves on the stove a little bit so that they know don't touch the fire. And you know, like how many times have you watched your child just going, I really want to pull you out from that, but I know the lesson is better if you go through it than if I protect you from it.
You know, I was watching a show last night with my wife, and we're watching it, and I've seen this happen to me a bunch of times when I'm really into the story. It's a series on Netflix. And something happened to one of the characters. It was very traumatic. They killed off a fun character that we liked. And we're like, oh. And the first thing that said to me, I'm like, oh man, they're beating the hell out of this character. And I said that as I said it out loud, I was like, yeah, that's probably what they do. They look at from the other side at us playing this movie. They're like, wow, they're making this a lot harder on themselves than they have to. Wow, look at what they're doing. It's fascinating let's see how he gets out of it. Let's see how she gets out of it. Is she going to, I don't know if they're going to make it this time. Like because we can get so caught up in the drama down here.
Yes.
We can get so caught up and it's intoxicating. Oh, this is a very intoxicating scenario here, down here. It's extremely, it's designed beautifully to do exactly what it's doing. But we get so intoxicated with the drama here that only when you're able to lift up out of it, start seeing it from a different perspective, hence the more spiritual side of things, you start to pull away from the drama. And as you start to elevate your consciousness, those dramas are no longer attracted to you. The people that would be bringing that drama is no longer energetically aligned with where you're at. So as you evolve, you'll see your friends fall away. You'll see relatives fall away.
Yes.
You will see, and you will start introducing new people into your life, like our conversation right now. 10 years ago, I wouldn't have had the capability of having a conversation like this. It would have been fun, but it wouldn't have been this kind of conversation, because I've been able to, at least in my own evolution, elevate myself and my understanding of things to a point where I've seen my friends fall off, my filmmaking friends, in 30 years. But I have all this new crop of people that are in my life that is much more energetically aligned to where I am. So it's just trying to figure your way out to elevate yourself away from the drama. If you don't want this drama anymore, you have a choice in the matter. You can pull yourself out of it. I know it's difficult when you're in it, but you can choose to quiet the mind. You can choose to center yourself. You can choose to meditate and to think about things in a very different way, and things will change. There's no doubt in my mind.
Well, I have an example for that.
Please.
I created for myself what I would describe as a fiasco.
We've had many of those. Yes.
It was a communication fiasco. And I had said something that needed to be said, but I was trying to say it. It didn't go as well as I'd hoped, right? And then I had to fly back home, and I thought, I think I've wrecked it there. I've really created a fiasco. And in
Left
fact,
the dumpster fire back there.
I know my friends love this word fiasco. They, oh, how was your trip? It was a fiasco. But anyway, this is not a fiasco trip. They'll get good report when I come back from this one. Yes. So anyway, I had created a fiasco. So anyway, I said, and sometimes I don't know I'm talking to the universe, God, creator. I think I'm talking to myself. And I said, gee, I just really don't know how to get out of this fiasco. I feel heart sick about it. I might have ruined everything. And then I heard the voice and it said, well, don't solve your problem from down there, Margot. Come up here. Come up here. And I went back to it said, come up into the white light. And where I had gone when I had that near-death experience, where it was the most beautiful, unconditional love, it was pure white. Where my son came from, he said, Mom, it's white light. That's what God is. And I heard this voice and it said, come up here, come and sit with me. And I sat up there with God in the white light. I said, I created this fiasco. And I really don't, and I was really heartfelt, like he was my therapist, and I poured it all out and what mistakes, I really owned what mistake I made in there, right? It wasn't just, this person's fault. I could have said, how could I have done that better? So do you feel, do you feel you've told me everything now, Margot? Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Okay, well, I'm going to solve it for you. You can go back down now. But don't solve your problems, even my boiler issue. Like, I'm not there, thank goodness, as they're turning it on as we speak. But I'll solve it from up here. And I think and even with the young man who had an addictions, he didn't have the wherewithal to solve it from down here. We had to bring it up here. That photograph.
That light.
Yes. And I'm really thinking, like, for all of you out there to go and find that happiest, healthiest picture. I had another client because she was in the same meetup group. And I said, go and find the happiest, healthiest, or a person that you love so much who's challenged right now. Find the happiest, healthiest picture of them and put it out. So she, she wanted a reading from me, like, can you go into the universe and find out about me? And I said, okay. And I said, it said, it was a high-pitched voice, and it said, she needs to remember her wildflower seed self. And she was a nurse manager, and she had to be in a real mind-dominant world. And she said, a wildflower seed, none of that makes any sense to me. And I said, well, it will over time. Just put that in your journal book, that this is what the universe wants you to get back. It's not so much in the mind dominant, but go over to your spirit side and recover that essence of yourself. She slipped away, that person. So anyway, she ended up pulling down pictures out of a shoebox in her cupboard. And this picture just floated down like this. And she picked it up, and there she was, a little girl in a wildflower seed dress with little flip-flops on with big daisies on the flip-flop toes. And she said, I need to remember the little girl self, my little girl self. Just like the young man with his addictions, he needed to go back when he was excited into Superman, when he thought Superman was the greatest. So when you think about where you are, going back and recovering the parts of yourself that you've let go.
Very, very much so.
And you can find those in your photographs, And I think there's something real. I think it's getting yourself back on your blueprint. And what you were saying, I think, was very powerful. You can stay in that addiction cycle for 10 years, or you can say, I'm ready now. I want it to be shorter than 10 years. But you have to do the work.
I think there's something that's going to be happening soon to humanity in general, is this need of nostalgia.
I agree.
The power of nostalgia is, if you remember, I think that it's the Greek root word means insanity. It's something along those lines. Because if you're living in the past, you're not living in the future. But there is a comfort. It is mom's apple pie of when times were better. We are in arguably difficult times. There have been worse times. I hate to ruin it for everybody.
Yes.
But we've been in much worse times.
Oh, yes.
But this is a rocky time. And to my understanding, it's not going to get much smoother for a little bit. We're going through some stuff as a collective. But nostalgia is something that brings us back to a time when we felt things differently. Movies are very powerful. Books, for certain people, are very powerful. You go back and read the same book. You go back and watch the same movie. I mean, Shawshank Redemption comes on. I'll just throw the remote. I'm like, all right, let's go. Yeah. You know, I watch The Green Mile. Just throw the remote.
Yes.
Just because it makes you feel a certain way. Even, you know, I collect. I don't collect often. I'm not a very materialistic guy anymore. But recently I started to go back to my comic books. I'd sold my comic book collection. I carried around 20 long boxes. I used to have a comic book business back in my olden days, selling on eBay. And so I had built this massive collection, but I hadn't looked at it in like 12 years. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to sell it. And I sold it before the pandemic. And more recently, I started like to go back to buying old comics. But the comics that I'm buying are the ones that I connected with in my youth. I'm not buying just to buy for investment. I'm not just buying what's the cool hot book. It's literally going back to where I was when I owned that book. That cover, what did it mean to me? What did it feel to me? And I have a friend of mine who made a beautiful documentary about the spirituality. It's essentially the spirituality of collecting comics. It's fascinating. It's coming out soon. And it really made me think of like, why do people collect? What's the purpose of it? And I started asking myself, you know, as a grown man, why am I buying comic books again? And it really just started to bring me back to that nostalgic time. And I think it's such a powerful tool, nostalgia. And what we're doing with that photo, finding the best version of yourself.
Yes.
It's similar. Like you feel like, you know, when I had this Superman comic book in my hand, let's say, I remember where I was. I remember the feeling I had. I remember how the world looked when I had that in my hand. And that's what the power of nostalgia is. Now, that can go off balance.
Yes.
As we've seen on shows.
Yes.
There is hoarding, which is another thing.
Yes.
But even collecting at a level that is so astronomical that you're like, okay, you are off balance. You know, what I'm talking about is, you know, a few things here and there. Some things that you're like, oh, that when I was in that place, this thing brought back those feelings. That's where the power is in nostalgia. And I think as we are going to keep going through this kind of rough patch over the next 5 to 10 years, nostalgia is going to play a big part. And that idea of the picture is nostalgia.
It is, and it's your own nostalgia.
Correct.
So it's bringing you back to the essence of when you came in here, the life your spirit wanted to live.
Yes.
And when I do the digital vision board, so you put the happiest, healthiest picture of yourself. Then around there, you put the happiest, healthiest pictures of people that you want in your life forever. Your wife, your children, your dog. Exactly. You put that on there because you want them at their very best. Because I was before COVID, and I haven't started it up again, but running retreats on where I bring people through reconnecting with their spirit and back to their essence of who they were always meant to be when they came here before stuff happened and they got off course. And then so it'll be a couple, you know, and each person will go off into the forest and start connecting with their spirit and their essence of the life their spirit came to live. And then they come back together and then share, well, what is the life you want? What is the life I want? How can we support each other in being champions for each other so that we live these fully, you know, full lives? But there's another story here. Like my daughter is mind dominant, love her to bits, but she thinks I'm a little bit woo-woo.
Little cray-cray?
Little cray-cray. And I'm sometimes even an embarrassment because I can't always do the same things I
revel in that, by the way. I love being an embarrassment to my children. I love it. They don't even know what's coming, but Halloween's coming around the corner, and we have surprises for them.
Oh, isn't that fun?
When their friends are going to go out, I'm like, oh, mom and dad are going to come out too. They have no idea what's coming.
That's awesome. So yes, they're proud of me because I just keep going, right? I'm never planning on retiring. I will continue to keep growing and asking the universe, what more do you want me to do for you? Like, how can I help you make this a better place for people, more where they can flourish, right? So anyway, she wanted to read Great Expectations by Charles Dickens because she was taking a literature course.
Sure.
And anyway, but she said, can you pick up one of those, just a little paperback, because I'll just throw it away after. And we'll read it together. And I'm thinking, because I have my English lit and I taught English literature, and I thought, oh, you know what? I bought myself the hardcover with 4 stories with a satin sash. It's got gold trim on it. It's beautiful, My Great Expectations. And I was reading, and that goes back to your nostalgia, and I was reading it because when I was doing my English lit, I had to crack those off. I had to read 3 massive books a week, plus take all my other courses. And I was like, what is it? Keep going, keep going. I couldn't sit and enjoy it like I can now. And I thought, I'm going to read Great Expectations now as an older woman where I have time.
Savor it. Yeah.
So I had a time in the day where I would sit on my balcony and just like, oh man, this is like luxury extraordinaire to sit and read. Anyway, I got thinking, that Charles Dickens knows a lot about how this spirit dimension works. And have you read I
haven't recently, no.
Do you see what I mean? Go back and have a look. So I thought, okay, if I were to put that big, thick book that he got paid by the word to write, I would say we were born with our spirit came here with a great expectation for our life. And life can knock us off our path. Like my students who got born into a family where, their life is harder than kids who had parents who created the environment for them to flourish. So they can get off their path. So how do you recover your great expectation for your life? And there's a character in there called Miss Havisham. And on the day she's an older lady, and on the day she was supposed to get married, the groom didn't show up. So in Great Expectations, she's still sitting in her tattery wedding dress. The wedding feast is all rotten. All the clocks are stopped at the time when this event happened, decades ago. And in my meetup groups, I say, I think you're wearing your Miss Havisham dress right now. And you've stopped the clock.
You're deep in the drama.
Yes. So she's made that heartache last decades.
It doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to last decades. And I think just by, as a starting point, as a non-intrusive, this isn't going to cost you any money. Anybody can do it. Saying, let me go back to the nostalgia of my life, of when I was extraordinarily happy. And I'm going to pull that photograph. I'm going to pull out those comic books. I'm going to surround, like your studio here is your nostalgia. You've pulled out the things that keep you in the vibrational zone that you want to be in. And we can all do that. So if you are in a rough time, which a lot of people who are watching YouTube on spirituality, sometimes they are in a rough patch. We can just say, just stop for a minute and see if you can remember when life was good. Go pick that photograph, put it out here, and then go to where you live and clean it up and make it shiny and get the place where you live, whether it's 100 square feet or bigger than that. Take that and make it into your vibrational, what makes you happy. And you'll see a world of difference.
Have you heard of the concept quantum jumping?
Kind of. You'd have to explain it to me.
Quantum jumping is an interesting idea. It's from quantum physics, where in quantum physics, according to quantum physics and many spiritual ideas as well, but there are parallel dimensions of us. So right now there are infinite versions of you, Margot, in this life, experiencing multiple different things.
Yes.
In one, you were not born with the voice, and you're in a dark place that you're trying to come out of. In another one, you are rich. In another one, you are a supermodel. Another one, you're a filmmaker, and you're this or that, whatever it is, and you're experiencing all of it through this avatar. Quantum jumping is the idea that you can connect to those versions of yourself and pull back that information. So if you're a great musician, a guitar player in one of your lifetimes, you can, through meditation, find that version of yourself and literally pull those skill sets into this life. So I found that fascinating. I've spoken to a bunch of quantum physicists about it, and it's a pretty fascinating idea. It's kind of mirroring what you're talking about here, but in a version of like actually pulling skill sets, pulling ideas. So imagine if you're starting a business right now. You're like, man, I really don't know anything about business. Let me go into a Business Margot version of me.
Oh, yes.
And I'll go, Business Margot, where are you? Like, oh, okay, great. Look, I'm opening a business. Do you have any advice for me? And then this information just starts to come in. And there's documented stories of people who all of a sudden can play the piano, and they never played a piano in their life. They could also start painting. They never painted in their life. They could also start doing this or that. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm quantum jumping and I'm pulling this stuff in. So I found that very fascinating, but it's very similar to this idea of this photo, the best version of yourself.
Yes.
Well, also finding the best version of yourself in other, we're going deeper here,
Yeah.
in other realities that you can pull in
Yes.
from it. So it's just a fascinating idea.
Well, it is. And everybody here watching has grander and grander versions of themselves sitting in the ether,
Absolutely.
waiting. And it feels like this, come on. So you
Just
can take
ask.
10 years to get into that version, or you can say, I'm ready now to be the next version of myself. I'm ready now.
And things will come to you and will open up to you.
And they will. And, of course, I work on my model. Do you mind if I just show
so
them?
we're gonna get into the.
I just want to show how it works on
I have a bunch of questions about
Oh,
it.
do
Don't
you?
you
Oh.
worry. I love. It's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you back, because I love your model. It was when you first talked about it, when you came on, I was fascinated with it. So when you reached out, I was like, oh yeah, I want to come back and I want to go deep dive into that. So we're going to go into that in a minute. But just on a side note, we talked about Charles Dickens.
Oh, yes.
Do you know that I think he basically created, I don't think he created it, but A Christmas Carol,
Oh, yes.
it's a near-death experience.
Well, yeah.
It's the model of a near-death experience.
Correct.
He's off path.
Yes.
Scrooge is off path.
Yes.
He sleeps, but essentially he dies.
Yes.
Has a spirit guide come in,
Yes.
showing him his life review
Yes.
of his past, his present,
Correct.
and his potential life if he doesn't change his ways.
That's right.
And then he's given back and scares the hell out of him.
Yes.
Throws him back into the life, and now he has the choice of to continue being Scrooge or go help Tiny Tim.
Correct.
Isn't that
That is absolute, and that's why I'm like totally in love with Charles Dickens. Hello, are you here?
All those great writers of the past, they were
yes.
connecting to things.
And at the same time, remember Marley, because he didn't change his ways, and he's
it's
got
a cautionary
link
tale.
by link. You forge your present, right? You forge your future. Yeah. And I'm saying, okay, if we know that, and back to the spiritual rules that we were talking about earlier, we know that. So let's get committed and say, I'm ready now to look at the links I've forged in my life.
Well, the links are karma.
Yes.
The links are karma that you're literally building upon yourself, that you have to carry and drag with you until you figure them out, so you can work through them and let the links start to loosen up and go. It's so that when I came to that realization a while ago when I was talking to a near-death experiencer, and Dickens came up and something came to me, I was like, that's a near-death experience. I mean, the whole thing is a near-death experience. And he was talking about that, and it's so powerful, because out of all the things in NDEs that people who never really understood or heard about NDEs asks me, is that they say that life review scared the hell out of me.
Yes.
I'm like, I get to feel what I did to other people. Holy crap.
Yes.
It just changes your perception of like, be nice, man.
I know, exactly. And, like my mom came back, she's been gone almost 30 years now, but she came back to me about 2 years after she passed. Mm-hmm. And she said, and, she was the one that greeted me also when I went over. And, but she said to me, well, when you pass over, you have to come back and get inside all the people that were significant to you and wear around their consciousness. And then so I am stimulating in you memories. So have you felt sometimes angry at me? Then you're sad. Now you're grieving. Now you're laughing. My mom was hilarious. She was one of the funniest people without a script. She was so funny the way she saw the world. And so she said, so I need you to tell me from your point of view what kind of mother I was for you. And once I get all the pieces together of what kind of human being I was, what kind of mother. And, you're a different parent for each of your kids because they have different personalities.
Of course.
And so, I have 3 kids with very different personalities, and I show up differently for them for whatever they need. But what kind of mother was I for you? So I didn't want to tell her anything I said, I just want to see you as the best. And she said, no, I need the real gritty stuff. Tell me what it is. What was the impact on you? So I said, okay, here goes. And she said, I'll be checking in with you. So whenever you have a feeling like maybe it's anger and maybe some of you who are viewing today have recently had somebody pass and you're having feelings of, gee, I feel really angry at them right now. It's them stimulating that emotion. So don't feel guilty. Don't feel guilty. They're stimulating that emotion so that they can learn what kind of person they were.
Beautifully said.
And so it's with the judgment day, she said, or life review, she said, it's not that God judges us, we judge ourselves. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go and have that whole life review with my kids right now. And my kids know, Mom, can you stop with seeing what else you could be doing to be a better mom? You were awesome. Well, thank you. We're done. Let's just move along, So how can we release some of those chains that we could be, Marley had to carry, and do it now while we're alive. And so when we go over for our life review, I think it'll still be harsh.
But it's going to be harsh and beautiful because that's what life is.
Yes,
harsh and beautiful.
It is.
That's what life is, harsh and beautiful. Not one of us come out of here unscathed.
Correct.
Not one single soul that walks on this planet comes off unscathed because that is the point of this game. That is the point of this simulation.
Yes.
To go through that.
Yes.
Now, I want to talk about your 5, is it 5 dimensions?
5 dimensions,
5 dimension theory. When I heard it the first time, it kind of blew me away. So can you, let's go deep down that rabbit hole. What are these 5 dimensions and how do you explain them to people?
Okay, well, I have to tell you where it came from because it didn't come from this thing.
No, it came from that other place.
Yes. I was doing my master's degree at the University of Calgary in education because I'm an educator. And our homework assignment was, how are the body, mind, spirit related? Well, I go only to the universe to get all my answers in that area of life. I'll go to a boiler expert to figure out how to fix a boiler, but I'll go to the voice and say, so I did my thing, like really lit a candle, got my pad of paper, sat on my couch. I wasn't expecting a lot. And as I said before, sometimes, you don't know if it's just your mind telling you something or is it really from the spirit dimension, right? And I wasn't expecting anything major. But I said, so how are the body, mind, spirit related? Well, that voice that usually shows up as that deep, you are to be a teacher, it actually showed up in form. And it was this massive figure without real details on it, like eyes.
That you're physically seeing.
I see it. I don't know how it fit that big in my little living room of my little bungalow that I lived in, but it was massive. And it was like so excited I'd asked the question.
She's like, oh, finally.
Somebody who's going to listen and write it and do something about it. And, I really do think the universe shows up if you're going to do something about it. If you get all, and you get them like every day, all day, how can you get them all done, Alex? Right? But you are a doer and you'll say, I got that. I will do that. And I do the same. So anyway, I said, so what is the answer? And it said, you have 5 dimensions of self, not just 3. You have. And it actually said, you have oneness. You have soul. You have a spirit. You have a mind, and you have a body. And in my first book, when I wrote this one, I wrote the vision exactly as it was told to me with some examples, like the examples it wanted. But then in the second book, my editor said, Margot, if you start with oneness, as you said earlier, Margot, if you start way up there, you're not going to get the message out there. Start with body. So for you, I will start with body. You have a body. Here's mine. There's yours. It's your physical. You have a mind, which is your logical, rational systems. How is my spirit supposed to navigate down here as a human in this earth realm? Mind. You have a spirit. And the spirit is the part of you that came from unconditional love and will go back into unconditional love. Okay. Some people see other people's spirits, right? And your spirit doesn't just suddenly show up when you pass over to the other side. It's there right now. It's in you right now, or hopefully. And it's looking out your eyes and it's having an experience down here. And I just happened to be very spirit. So my spirit always knew it was a spirit trying to lug around, and I'm 5'10", lug around this big body. You have a soul. And I'm sitting there. Oh, spirit and soul. I thought they were the same thing because people use them the same way.
Sure.
And it said, no, they're different. Your soul is your purpose. Why did your spirit come down here? That's your soul part of yourself. And then oneness is your part that's connected to God and connection and belonging.
Stop for a second.
Yes.
Go back to the soul and the spirit. I'm not clear on those two.
Not quite sure.
So can you break those two down a little bit more?
All right.
So I get the spirit part. That I get. But the soul part is where I'm having a problem.
Okay. Well, I'll do it by way of an example.
Please.
I get a student in my class. I see their eyes are going dim. There's no light in them. And I say, can you come in, stay after class, and we need a conversation. And I said, I notice, that I see you. I see you. Something's happened to you. What is it? And frequently they tell me, I just want to go home now. Okay. All right. You want to go home now. Their spirit wants to go home now. And I get out my little pie chart that looks like this, my little pie chart. Their spirit dimension wants to go home now. It's too harsh and abrasive down here.
It's rough. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really hard. And their spirit's going like, this is like going, being forced to go to a party I don't want to go to. I don't think this is fun. This isn't fun for me. I want to go home. And I'll say, okay, let's go over here. There's a reason why. You're down here for a purpose. And if we do anything together this semester, is we're going to find your soul purpose. Why you're here. You can't go home now. I know your spirit wants to go home now, but your soul dimension, we need to work on it. We need to develop that.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So then the spirit would be the soul that is literally down here, and then the soul would be the higher self that has a better understanding of why you're here?
They're all equal. That's why they're all equal. So what I say to them is, you can turn them on, turn them off.
Okay.
And I'll say, okay, so let's go in here. So your spirit's not happy. When you, and I know you love to wear hoodies, and some of my spirit dominant students, Alex, also like to wear hoodies. Dark black hoodies.
Yes.
And they'll be in class, and when it becomes too abrasive in there, I'll see them.
I don't do that, but I do like wearing hoodies.
But you can imagine,
of course.
Kids, right? Teenagers.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
I have some.
Yeah. And they do this, and they're trying to just give themselves a little cocoon to live in.
Oh, absolutely.
In this world.
Absolutely.
So they're trying to protect their spirit. So that's their spirit, part of themselves. And I'll say, okay, you have a very highly developed spirit. So we need to go and develop the other dimensions of you. And I would say, when you start pulling up your hoodie and putting your earbuds in, I said, where do you go? Where does your spirit go? Very often, their spirit is living in one of their other quantum, what did you call it?
Quantum parallel reality.
They're living the parallel reality.
They're disconnecting from here.
Yeah, but they're in there and they have a parallel reality that they're living in. Mm-hmm. They may have different parents in there, different friends in there. They're doing something really exciting and super cool. And they're living in there, but their body looks like they're just a vacant car in a parking lot.
Well, I think a lot of creatives and artists do that all the time. Me being an artist, I understand that, where you want to escape into a world that you create.
Yes.
As writers, as filmmakers,
yes.
as artists,
yes.
Painters, even musicians.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of disconnect from this world and build their own experience. It's a way to disconnect.
Correct, yes.
And through that art is hopefully where you can bring some new perspectives, some new lights.
Yes, but imagine our school systems are very mind dominant.
Oh, God, yes.
So the other part of this, Alex, was you have 5 dimensions and you're born dominant in one and you grow the other. So this student with his hoodie on is a spirit dominant.
How do you find which one you're dominant in?
Well, a lot of people will be able to work it out right now because I get letters all the time and people are working out which dimensions. And think about yourself also on a spectrum. Mm-hmm. How body are you? Mm-hmm. So, body dominant people are really good at hair, makeup, nails, fashion. Like I was trying to pack an overnight bag and I thought, how do these body dominant girls get their cosmetics in those little, what do you do? And I'm actually going to have to go and find one of my body dominant friends to show me how you pack an overnight bag. It doesn't come naturally to me.
Fair enough.
And, but body dominant people, mind dominant, they're very good at logical, rational systems, creating hospitals where you funnel large groups of people and you systematize it. Is it always that effective? Well, we know there's more. Schools, I say, are mind-dominant institutions, and we value math and science and all of these things. Are spirit-dominant kids who live in this other reality, who are pulling their hoodies up. To a mind-dominant teacher looking at them, I do workshops and sessions all over the place to teachers on this model. To look at them, they'll go, well, that kid just needs to go to the office. They're rebellious.
Right.
They need to fail.
Well, don't get me started on the school system. I mean,
we need to change. That's what part of my teacher thing is.
Yeah, it's like this box that you're supposed to shove everybody through, and everyone learns the same way.
Yes,
I was a visual learner, which does not work well, especially in the 80s and 90s.
Yes,
in the American educational system. Like they want you to do what they wanted you to do. But
the mind dominance.
Yeah, but I was a visual learner, so I would learn more from watching something and listening to something than reading something. Like I absorb more from visual and audio than I do from reading. That's just because I'm an artist, I'm creative, I'm a visual person. Like I became a filmmaker.
And a visionary. You're a visionary.
Appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's my strong suit. But yet I was being shoved in. So I had a rough time. I had a rough go of it in school. Only until I got out of school where I decided to go back in just to learn, to have fun. That was fascinating. I went back just to take classes in philosophy and psychology. And I had a 4.0. I was on the president's list, whatever that list is, dean's list and all that stuff. But in high school, I barely passed because it was just so... And I was in a Catholic school on top of it.
Yes.
So can you imagine?
I can imagine.
The weights all of that programming, and you must do it this way, and I'm not that guy. So, but yes, so that's mind dominance, yeah.
Yeah, so the mind dominant structure is looking at this child under a hoodie as a problem. And instead for me, I would say, come in after class. Let's dig in here. Where do you go? Well, they're living a parallel life.
Existence. Yeah.
And it could be a filmmaker. Could be, well, I'm making a film. Okay. And have you got a theme for your film? And I start asking a whole bunch of questions. And I'll say, okay, well, what courses are you taking that will help you become a filmmaker? Because in my school where I taught, we actually had a whole filmmaking, broadcasting and everything, studio in there. Are you taking these courses? English will be good for you because, you can
Literature,
start
storytelling.
how do you tell a great story and everything. And I'll say, well, you've got your timetable. It doesn't look like your timetable of courses you've selected are going to help you get where you want to go. So let's go and redo your timetable. And I said, now, the other thing you're doing is you're hiding under your hoodie. So your oneness dimension is low. Your sense of connection and belonging. You are pulling that hoodie up. And quite often they had long hair that would go across
Very
here
emo.
too.
Very
yes.
emo. Yes.
And so your connection and belonging skills are low.
Sure.
And that's making you feel lonely. Mm-hmm. And you can tell when you're lonely, it means your oneness dimension is low. Mm. So I said, so let's work on building a nice network of friends. And once you're in the courses that will charge you up and get you excited about becoming a filmmaker, you'll have friends in there. Mm-hmm. And I said, now I want you to practice staying here in this dimension. And we're going to do it at 5-minute increments. So I got them a journal book and I said, let's put filmmaking, and I want you to put some pictures in there. Pictures are so important to filmmaking. Mm-hmm. And then, but now I want you to stay in class, like your spirit stays here. Mm-hmm. Don't let it roam over to that other parallel universe you live in. You need it to stay here. And I want you to stay in, and your eyes have to track with me. I need to see that your eyes, if I can tell if your spirit's somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So I want you to, and we're going to do 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, open up and look at the picture again. Okay, you had your little break now. And it's the same thing if you want to start jogging. Mm-hmm. I'm a runner. So if I haven't run like for a long time, run one light post, walk one light post until you can go a little farther and a little farther and a little farther. So, and I'm imagining this boy right now that I was working with doing this. And I said, so you just stay here 5 minutes. Tomorrow it has to be, you have to stay here 10 minutes. It's a spiritual discipline to get your spirit to stay here. Mm-hmm. And after a while, I would say, are you present today? Like, because I have to do their attendance. I would only mark them present if their spirit was also there. So I don't want any...
You're impossible, Margot. Impossible.
Terrible. Your spirit actually has to show up.
So much pressure.
So much pressure. Your spirit has to stay here. And because they can learn better if their spirit's here than over there in another dimension. And I said, my number one job as your teacher is to help you create the life your spirit. Take that quantum parallel life you're living that exists in that dimension. And my job is to help you make it here. So you've got that, and you're now a cohesive being.
So going through the 5 dimensions that you're in, are these all different stages that we have to kind of go through to evolve, or is it a combination of all that you have to kind of bring into a balance to evolve to a certain place? Because as you're saying this, I'm going, okay, so Buddha or Jesus, okay, when they came through, they might have been this or that. But at a certain point, a master would have a mastery of all of these elements, all these ideas. I'm using ideas for lack of a better word, but they have full mastery of their body, full mastery of their mind, and understand their point and purpose in this existence. Understand their spirit, but also understand their soul, but then be very highly evolved in the connection of oneness. But is this kind of like a level thing, or is it a combination thing?
Well, we have all 5 dimensions, and I love that we have 5 fingers, mm-hmm. That number 5. And I liked how that they're equally important. We sometimes elevate the spirit as higher than the others, more mm-hmm. important, or the soul or oneness. They're all equally important.
Down here.
They're all equally important. My goal for myself is to try and build as much as I possibly can. I'm a spirit dominant person, mm-hmm. Which means I value unconditional love. My spirit is more developed than my body and my mind. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it wanted to go home and it finds this world harsh and abrasive. But less so now that I have this model. Mm-hmm. I thought the body kind of dimension stuff was a little waste of time. Having to have like closet full of clothes and the right shoes and boots and purse. And I thought, I
that's
don't
all-
have time
but-
for that.
But for the body, what you're talking about is more of the materialistic stuff. But how about the actual body and taking care of the
Yes,
body?
and that, like I exercise every day, eat nutritious food, occasional drink, like if I'll have a glass of wine or something, but not very often. But I'd even like to cut that out, to be honest. But so really caring for the body. And I'll give you an example because, I'll give you my son, the one that God told him he had to come down and be a human. During COVID, he lost his dream job. Because he was selling a space in a community workplace. Well, nobody could go to work, so there wasn't and they didn't do it very nicely to him.
Of course not.
They just said they cleaned house. Anyway, so he got government money for about 3 months, but he said, Mom, I don't like being on government money because I love to be working. I'm ready. What do I need? I'm ready, and again, I am ready now. So he said, I'm coming over. I need an appointment. Okay. So he said, what do I do to get a job? I can't, this whole going online and putting in, you're talking into the wilderness of how to get a job. He said, I'm used to, meeting people face to face and getting a job. But this whole having to do it online during COVID is really difficult. And I said, okay, well, you're going to get ready for your job right now. Let's get your pie chart out. Let's go over to body. Well, his hair was like COVID hair. He had this real rough beard.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, the COVID. Oh,
Not
the COVID
even
haircuts.
trimmed.
Oh, the COVID haircuts were a sight to be seen.
15 pounds of COVID weight had gone on because he
There's
couldn't go to the
that.
gym.
Yeah.
Eating terribly because he was doing all these dine and dad, bringing in the stuff delivered to the door and everything.
Of course.
So he said, okay, I see what I have to do. I need a haircut. I need to go to the gym, work out, get the body in shape here. This is not me. This body that I'm wearing around right now is not a reflection of who I am. I've let it go. Let's go over to mind. Okay, what are the logical, rational things you have to do to get a job? Well, redo your resume. Go reach out to people who can be your references. Go on LinkedIn and see who, go into old contacts and everything. And just as he's sitting, I'm actually calling out things from my desk in the other room. Being on time might be a nice goal to have because he's putting them on here, right? And he said, Mom, this is my pie chart. And although that is a useful hint, this is mine. So he said, okay. So he put on this resume and just then ting on his phone. And he said, look at this. Can you come for an interview tomorrow? From somebody that I used to work with who said, oh, we need a person just like this and this and this. And he said, oh, my buddy Alex is all those things. So ting on his phone. And he said, okay, I'm going to go to that interview. And I know I need to hustle around, get my hair cut, trim off this beard. Won't be able to lose the 15 pounds by morning, but here, I'll try. I'll get on it. He said, but you know what? I'm going to carry on with my pie chart. I'm not going to say, oh, I have a job.
good.
I'm done. I'm out of here. See you later. He said, I want this job to help me create the life my spirit wants to live. I want to be able to travel and still do this job. I want to be able to work from home sometimes and still do this job. I want it to be with cool people that I'm excited to see every day. So he was writing all those things down here. This is what I want. And I want this job to really feel meaningful. I don't want to just go in there for the cash. I want to go in there because it's meaningful and I feel like I have a soul purpose in this. And then he went over here. Oh, my connection and belonging is really low. And he's very charismatic. It's really low. COVID,
disconnected everybody.
And then I didn't have a job and anybody, how's the job hunt going? Well, not well. And then I don't want to come out in the world and see anybody. And you can become into the habit of that, which was unusual. So he said, I've got to get my connection and belonging skill set back again. I've got to get back out into the world.
So the oneness is not just connection to the source.
No.
It's
you and we're having a oneness moment right now.
Okay.
Trying to understand each other. We're connecting.
Okay.
You've created a space for people to feel like they belong. And so when I talk to teachers using this model, I say, when you're designing a lesson plan, What is the physical part of that lesson plan? How do you set up your classroom for that lesson plan? What are you trying to achieve there? How are you making sure that all the spirits of those children in there are addressed? What is the sole purpose of it? And are you integrating connection and belonging into your classroom? It's a really great model. And a man bought my book. He was going to the airport and he had a British accent. And he said, I just need one. Hurry, give me that. And I said, okay, here. He gave me some money and off he went. And then he wrote me back. And he said, oh, I'm a museum designer. I design museums all over the world. And I said, he said, I'm from London. And I said, oh, I did my PhD at Oxford. And he said, oh, I did the Reno on the Ashmolean, which is the art gallery. And I remember that when I was there. And he said, I want 6 books, please, for my team, because you taught me more about how to design a museum, the physical structure. A museum is a teaching tool. How do we build this in? How do we make each of the collections the spirit of that collection? How do we make that, the spirit of the collection, come across? What is the sole purpose? And he said, the most important thing you taught me is, how do I create a sense of connection and belonging in the design of space? It can be used in all, like at work, at home, with your children. It's just really it's changed my life.
Margot, so we've been talking a little bit about soul purpose. There's so many people out there who don't understand why they're here.
I know.
How can they find what they're here to do and get back on that path that we were talking about earlier?
Such a big question. And it is probably if I were doing data organization of the emails I get, it would be up there at the top
right.
of that people want a soul purpose. And if I were going to start today with somebody who said, I have no idea. See, it's hard for me because I've always known. But if I were going to start today, I would say, sit quietly today and say, I'm ready now for my soul purpose. And the soul purpose isn't necessarily going to come in that you're going to be world famous or you're going to make $1 million tomorrow, right?
There.
Like, I know that I should be this famous whatever. Start over here. I'm ready now for my soul purpose to come in. I'm going to spend the next 365 days pulling myself back to the very best version of myself. That's going to be my soul purpose right now. Pull myself back to the very essence, my great expectation. Before life got in the way and it got so busy that I forgot who I am. And when I got divorced when my kids were little. And there was a day when I had to drop the kids off at their dad's, and I used to drop them off for breakfast and carry on to work. And I couldn't even see through my tears, Alex. Like they were going there for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I was crying so hard I thought I have to pull the car over because I can't even see through my tears. And that's before this theory came in. I can't even do it. And I had forgotten who I was in that marriage. Like I couldn't even order off of a menu in a restaurant. I was the light in my eyes was so gone. I'm sorry, but the light in my eyes was so gone that I wouldn't even know, do I like that or that? And then, so I was crying so hard. And then that voice came in and it said, Margot, you can either cry for 4 days or you can use your 4 days to get yourself back. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. And I thought, yes, that's where I need to start. I mean, my sole purpose, yes, I'm a teacher. I go there every day. But now my sole purpose has gone greater. I've stepped into many, many more grander versions of myself. Even my students said to me, Ms. McKinnon, you've got to move out of just teaching just us in a classroom, which I love you all, but go bigger and see how far you can go. But the first step was to remember who I am.
Beautifully said.
And I thought, well, maybe I'm a maybe I'm a fashion designer. So I bought fabric and I got this old like sewing machine. I said, well, maybe I know, maybe somehow in a parallel universe, I'm a fashion designer. Guess I'm not. My kids came in and I was lying on fabric trying to draw my shape on it. Mom, that's not how you sew. Okay, I was going to be a pie maker and the kids came home and my pie was still in the plate in the garbage. I'm not a pie maker either. But I tried so many different things that I thought, well, maybe I am. Maybe this, maybe that.
You're exploring.
And then I found out I can write. I found out that if I go into my visionary side of myself, I can pull down messages that resonate with people. And when I pulled myself back and I was so excited about my life, boom, guess what? The universe gave me this.
Because you got there.
Because I would never have been able to be given something bigger to do, a bigger soul purpose.
If you were doing just pies.
If I were just making pie. Not that there's anything wrong with, like, I love pie. That's why I was trying to make them.
I mean, come on, who doesn't like pie?
I know,
but that wasn't your path.
That wasn't nowhere in any parallel universe.
I promise you there is a pie Margot, a pie maker Margot who's killing it right now in another parallel version of yourself.
Or else I wouldn't have had the idea to be a pie maker, right?
But you just couldn't connect to that version and bring that recipe into how to do it properly because it wasn't something you needed to do.
If ever I make the perfect pie, I'll post it on my website.
It's hilarious.
So anyway, I was trying all kinds of things. Okay, here's another. I thought, well, maybe I'm an artist. Alex, I went to Walmart. I got one of those little watercolor sets, with the little 5 colors in it, with a little skinny brush and a pad of paper.
And?
I signed up. It makes me laugh so hard. I signed up for an artist retreat. And I brought my little paint.
No, you did not. You did not bring your watercolors from
I brought them.
Your Crayola
because I didn't want to go and spend a whole bunch of money on
expensive stuff.
On expensive art supplies if it didn't resonate with me.
And how'd it go?
Well, people were it was like out in the country, right? It was 2 days. And they were setting up their easels in the field. They had painter's smocks. And I'm sitting there with my... And they're going, well, actually, Margot, they took such an interest in me because
absolutely.
I showed up.
And they're like, what do you do? How, what? Like,
I'm a real humble person.
Yeah.
I start from scratch. And I will try it. And I don't get embarrassed.
Oh, yeah.
I don't get embarrassed about myself. I'll sit there with my little watercolor, my little skinny. I didn't even buy extra brushes to see if maybe a wider brush might give a better look. But I will start from scratch.
But that ability to be humble, to give yourself permission to make mistakes.
Yes.
To give yourself permission to explore and just see what happens with no attachment to outcome.
Correct.
Is a superpower.
Oh.
It is a superpower.
Nice.
I'm telling you, it's a superpower because most people would judge themselves. Most people would get all of the smock and everything and not that they know what to do with it. They would just buy it all. So they are putting on the costume of an artist.
Yes.
And then they will start to pretend to like... Look at me, I am...
Yes.
It's. I don't know if they have this in Canada, but it drives me nuts. When you see a car on the highway or in the road, and it's one of those like little, Volkswagens or Honda, and they have the big muffler.
Oh, yes.
And it's...
yes.
It's like, who are you kidding? You are not a Porsche.
Yes.
You're pretending to be a Porsche or a Ferrari.
Yes.
Or some sort of bigger thing than you are by... making a lot of noise.
I know.
It is so when I look at it like it's like, wow, you haven't learned that lesson yet. I feel it's ridiculous. And I can say these things because I did the same thing when I was in high school. Not with a muffler, but with a booming system in the back to make the music pound, and you would get rims. And I had it on a Cavalier, a Chevy Cavalier that cost me $8,500 new back in the late 80s, early 90s. I had this horrible system that sounded horrible. I had horrible rims which were too big and sliced up my tires because I was trying to pretend to be something I was not.
Yes.
And I was not, I wasn't humble enough yet to just be me.
Yes.
And to just I'm okay with just being me. I'm okay to fail. I'm okay to try things.
Yes.
And that's life. So what you have is a superpower. I'll be honest with you. It's something that most people don't have.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Why do you think so many people were coming up to you like, what are you doing? Is that just a one brush? Is that Crayola? Like, it's like, did you get that at like Walmart? Like, where did you buy that? This is fascinating. What are you going to do with it? Like, I'm sure as an artist, they were all fascinated.
Yes.
Maybe she knows something that we don't. Maybe she's going to be able to do something that I don't know if you've seen this on YouTube. There's this guy who rides the subway in New York, and he just sits there and he will just draw,
I have. Yes.
draw the portraits of just people. I mean, what he's able to pull off with a pen and paper is fascinating. And then occasionally he does the watercolors.
Yes.
Occasionally, and you just see that. It's just like, he's not boasting. He's not dressed the part. He's a simple, humble dude with a pad and a pen. And I'm just going to give you a little happiness today.
Yes.
That's why he's so well loved, and his channel does so well, because it's so simple. It's so basic, but it's done so well. A good pie is not complicated. A good pie,
yes,
when done right, is apples, let's say.
Yes.
Apples, sugar, cinnamon, dough.
Yes.
And butter. Lots of butter.
Lots. Lots and lots.
But that's it. You don't throw in 1,000 things. It's a simple thing. Good bread is built on just basic, well-executed ingredients. It doesn't have to get complicated. And I think that's what
I think we make it so complicated.
But that's life in
and
general.
I think when people look at their sole purpose, they think they have to be exceptional at it right out of the gate.
Famous. We have to be
all
rich.
famous.
Our sole purpose needs to be grandiose. No, it could just be, I'm a teacher.
Yes.
I'm an electrician. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. It doesn't have to be this giant thing. You know, I've said on the show before, like, I'm reluctant. I'm the reluctant podcast host. I'm a filmmaker by nature. I'd like to be behind the scenes. I don't particularly like spotlight on me. I don't particularly like being in front of the camera, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I do it because I've agreed to do it, and I do enjoy doing it. But if I was given the option tomorrow to be behind the scenes and not be in front of the camera, I would do it in a heartbeat, because that's who I am as by nature. But it's something that, you know, I'm being thrown into this world that we have now with the show and everything like that. And I'm okay with it. I understand it. I'm ready for it. Doesn't mean that I'm particularly comfortable with everything that comes along with it.
Yes.
But I understand the grand mission of what we're trying to do. I use that as an example of not being comfortable in what's been kind of tossed on you sometimes.
Well, I feel that way as well. Like, you know, some people, there's always a book, you know, and I call myself like an accidental writer.
Yeah.
And I'm an accidental entrepreneur. Like, I'm not a businesswoman. The voice came down and gave me the dominance theory, and it gives it to somebody who will do something about it. And so I said, okay, well, I'll write this one. And then this is more of the guidebook, so that I can get it out there. But the universe, if you don't do anything about it, it'll move on to somebody else. And I'll give you an example. When I was doing my PhD thesis, I was almost ready to throw it in the garbage, to be quite fair. I was having a hard time in England for them to understand that spirituality was not religion. And so it was really hard. And I came back to Calgary, and I had this big lump of a thesis sitting there. And I said to the voice, I said, you know, you're going to have to show me in 15 minutes if you want me to carry on and doing this hard grind on it, or I will just throw it in the garbage, quit, keep going with my book, I hadn't written this one yet, write this one, and I'll just keep going with the dominance theory. But if you want me to finish this thesis and get my PhD, which I was trying to do for my 16-year-old self because she wanted a PhD from Oxford, and that was my version back, and I wanted to do it for her. And so anyway, I said, you're going to have to show me in 15 minutes. And I'm going for a walk. So I closed down my laptop and I went for a walk. I came in the door, I opened up my laptop, and there was an email from a woman from Lebanon. And she said, I'm doing my doctoral study on spirituality in education in Lebanon. Have you published your thesis yet? She said, I really need your data to help support what I'm doing here in Lebanon.
Look at that.
And I thought, okay, how does, we were talking earlier when we first started talking, what are the earth rules down here and what are the spiritual rules or techniques or however, process? Well, I said to the universe, I need you to help me because if this is what you want me to do, because we are instruments of the universe too. We get our visions, and if we don't do something about it. So not only did the universe listen to me, cry out in pain, because if I had to throw that in the garbage, that would be like throwing away a child.
Sure, of course. Of course. Oh, I know. I know.
And so not only did the universe listen to me right now, right then, it went up and chose somebody as far away from me and from a different culture who also listens. So that woman probably had, I need to check. And she'd found me online, right? My thesis online. Found me and would respond and send me an email of encouragement.
At that time.
In 15 minutes. It can work that quickly.
So you were saying that the universe gives you these things to people who will do something.
Yes.
It's fascinating. Two different stories. One was Spielberg, who every time an idea would pop into his head, he had so many ideas, not everything. He never ran with everything. But the way the universe works is it'll go to the best candidate first. If that candidate doesn't move on it, that idea needs to be birthed into the world at this time. So we'll go to the next one.
Yes.
So he would say, he goes, I have an idea, and 6 months later, I didn't do anything with it. And 6 months later, I see James Cameron coming out with it.
Yes.
Or I see Martin Scorsese coming out with it. Or I see somebody else coming out with it. And I go, it was fast. Like when the Jurassic Park thing fell in his lap, he grabbed it and ran with it in a very, very, he's like, no, this is mine. It's not. My favorite story is Prince. God rest his soul, Prince. He was infamous because he wrote so much. I mean, we have a new album from Prince every year till the year 3000. That is how many songs he's written in his lifetime before he passed. Unreleased. And he would wake up in the morning, one night, 2 o'clock in the morning, wakes up and he calls up his backup singers and his band. He goes, hey guys, I need you to come to the studio. I need to record. And they're like, Prince, it's 2 o'clock. Can we come in at 6 or 7? Can we go back to sleep? He goes, no, I need you to do it now. Because if I don't record this, Michael Jackson's going to get it. Oh. And it was like the idea for a song came in. And if he didn't put it out and grab onto it, do something with it, it would have bounced over to Michael, he thought.
Yes.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah. So when I get those, I keep a book with me, like, it's in the other room, but I keep a book like on the seat of my car and everything. I carry it around with me. And then I say, I heard that. I wrote it down. Don't give it to anybody else. I'm working on it. I just have to finish off what you gave me yesterday to do. And then I'm going to work on that one. But I have, people that your viewers saying, Margot, can you have your own YouTube channel? Which I have one. I don't put anything out there. And they said, we don't care, Margot, if you're all perfect and you have a big studio production and all of this stuff. Just grab your phone
and talk to us.
Yeah, we just want you to go for a run and tell us what the universe told you while you were out on your run. And then we'll be, just at 5 minutes, 10. And so I can't be hung up on whether it's perfect. And I think sometimes when people want to go into a soul purpose or follow something that their spirit wants to do, they think it has to be perfect. It doesn't have to be. You will get better and better. Think of how far you've come in your whole production. But the whole thing is, I'm ready now. I'm going to start.
Yes.
I'm ready now. I'm going to start. And if some of you out there are going to start with, I'm going to go and find that picture of myself that was the happiest, healthiest, and go and find another picture of yourself when you were a little child and just say, you deserved the most magnificent life. And the look at how you used to play. Yours was comic books. Look at how you used to play. go take those playful things. I had this client one time, she said, I want to find my soul purpose for this year. And I said, okay. So I go and ask the universe. And I said, they said, oh, send her life cycle chart, which is you start in your womb memory and you put all your memories like this. And, when you started school, blah, blah. So I sent it to her. I said, can you fill this in before you come to your appointment? And then I heard, tell her she needs to remember her kindergarten self. So I go and write this down on a yellow piece of paper and I put it on my dining room table. She came over and I said, so how did your life cycle chart go? And she said, well, I got stuck at kindergarten. I said, is that right? Well, what is it that, you liked about all the centers, the friends? She came from an abusive household and it was the first time she realized an adult could be nice. She could have friends, how fun it was to be around other kids. So I wrote it all down. And I said, would you like to know what the universe wants for you? Yeah. So I walk over to my table and I pull it out and I say, remember that, your kindergarten self. So go back to your childlike, your great expectation before life became a little hard or you became a parent and now you have no time for yourself. Take some time for yourself. And even if it is with a little scrawny kit of paints from Walmart, just start. Just say, I'm just starting. And then the universe sees you and says, oh, they're listening. They're listening now. And the more you listen, the more the universe will come in. You're a person who listens. I'm going to give you more, and then I'm going to give you more, and I'm going to give you more and more and more.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I'm going to ask you a few questions I ask all my guests.
Yes.
What is your definition of living a fulfilled life?
Well, right now it is, I really want to go after the life my spirit wants. And I you know how we had a blue moon recently?
Yeah.
I sat under the blue moon and I was sitting there with my pad of paper and I had my candle going and I had never done this before, but I was sitting under the blue moon. And I said, universe, I think I've been lying to you. Go on. What are you lying about? I said, I think I'm lying to you about I'm happy with living the small life in Calgary, Alberta. I'm ready to get out there and be live on podcasts. I'm ready to start traveling again. Like I used to, and then COVID hit and I never got back again. My sense of connection and belonging. I said, I think I've been lying to you that I'm okay. I'm ready now for it to actually go bigger. And then the next day, my friend said, can you come and meet my friend? She's read your book 3 times. And I said, sure. And the friend said, oh, yeah, I just got back from Greece. And I said, oh, what are you doing there? She said, oh, well, I have a house there. She said, Margot, anytime you want my house in Greece, just go to Greece. And it's right on the ocean and everything. Just go to Greece. I said, gee, thanks, Blue Moon. And then I get an invitation to come down to Austin. I'm going, should I book a ticket to Austin? Should I go to Austin? Well, I wrote it on my Blue Moon meditation. So the same thing holds there true. If you're saying to the universe, this is what I really want, and then you go, oh, maybe not, then it fizzles. So I looked on there, well, I guess I'm going to Austin. I guess I'm meeting Alex because I wrote it down here on my piece of paper. So a fulfilled life for me is to just see where I'm holding myself back. A little bit of resistance, holding back. Because when you actually go full on, you have to do things. You have to get busy.
Oh, yeah.
And so living a fulfilled life for me is saying, what are you holding back on, Margot? Because maybe you're a little too afraid to do it.
Fair enough.
Go after it.
Now, if you had a chance to go back in time and speak to little Margot, what advice would you give her?
I have a little picture of her, and she's, it was funny, in your last show, we were talking about how I had fallen off my surfboard when we used to live in Cocoa Beach, California, and the waves were coming over my head, and my parents didn't see I was drowning. And I'm like 3, right? And some of your audience said, what parents would ever leave their kids? Like, we didn't have life jackets back then.
It was a different time,
right?
Yeah. How we survived is a miracle.
I know, we're still alive today, testament of our strength. So anyway, I thought about that, and I said, well, Dawn and Audrey, for starters, they had full confidence that I would know how to get out of the undertow, right, at 3 years old. But anyway, I have a picture of myself. We had this seawall, and I used to climb up on it, and I would go across the seawall balancing at like 3 years old. And what you can't see in the picture is that there are all these cactus. And if I fell off, I'd roll into the cactus. Were my parents worried that I would fall off this seawall? No, they're taking a picture of me going along the seawall, right? And I thought, little Margot, you're fearless. Mm-hmm. So whatever you're holding back in yourself, you're fearless. Just go ahead and do it. Get that whole, see how far you can push what the life your spirit wants to live. Go and do it.
How do you define God or source?
That is my best friend, my mentor, the one that will tell me the truth, even when it hurts. My protector, my confidant. And I do my white light meditation. Remember I said, I go up there and I do one in the morning and I say, this is what I have on today. So, my champion. And then at the end of the day, I have another white light meditation. And I say, how did I do? Can I do better? So we really work as a team. So he's on my team. And I just say, bring it on. Bring me more. I will do it.
What is love?
Love. It's that whole boundless acceptance of a person, no matter where they are in their life.
Beautifully said. And what is the ultimate purpose of this life?
Of this life as a whole, or my life?
This life.
As a whole. Well, the universe has been talking to me. One of your viewers asked me, why does that voice come in so strongly for you? And I heard myself saying, I'd never thought of it this way before, if the Garden of Eden story were true, I wouldn't have eaten the apple. And he said, "What? I always thought the Garden of Eden, I didn't kind of accept it, right? But as a metaphor, I thought, okay, when I listen to that voice, life goes really well. So if that voice tells me, don't eat that apple, Margot, I've provided all of this. Just I ask you not to eat that. I would say, okay, I'm not going to eat it. Then I got thinking about the Garden of Eden, and I thought, we have been given a beautiful earth to live on. And I think that's part of the nostalgia, bringing our world back into a flourishing place. And how do we start? Well, start with yourself. As I said, go back to your childhood essence. Bring yourself back into a flourishing state. Bring your family back into a Garden of Eden, flourishing, natural state. Then your community, where you work, and put that front and center. So I think that's where we're going right now. That's what the voice, which I now think is God talking to me. I think God is saying, please bring this world back into a flourishing place in whatever capacity it is. And one day I had to deal with a few difficult people, and I came into my place and I said, I'm so tired of dealing with difficult people. And I heard, me too. Me too. I have to deal with difficult people all day long, only on a much grander scale. So if we can let's not be difficult ourselves. Let's be part of the solution.
Where can people find out more about you and the amazing work you're doing in the world? Well,
you can find me on my website, which is drmargotmckinnon.com. You can Google and see where I've been on different podcasts, and on YouTube. You can go and YouTube me. You can write me an email and tell me how this resonates. I try and get back to you. Of course, my book's on there that you can, and I run meetups where I show you how to talk to the universe and how to get in, so you hear that voice. I'm trying to do spirit dominant leadership right now. So how do you get yourself into position so that the voice is speaking to you so that you can provide the spirit dominant leadership that is so crucial to our world in order to bring us back to that flourishing state. So go and look at what the different steps are and see if that's of interest to you.
Beautiful. And do you have any parting messages for the audience?
I really appreciate everybody who's reached out. And if you haven't, I appreciate you too. And tuning into Alex, and I am also your champion, Alex.
Thank you so much.
You know, you're doing such wonderful work. And I think together, and everybody who's watching, we have the possibility of also, in our own way, making a contribution. So I appreciate everybody and all the opportunities we have. God's up there just saying, I hope somebody's listening today. You know,
We're trying.
we're trying.
We're trying.
Yeah.
Margot, it's been such a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for all the work you're doing to awaken the planet. I do appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey, and don't forget to subscribe.